Hi, I'm Michael Writer, and today we'll be covering the budget build preview of the Alliance Rex Pilot Escort with my initial thoughts and stuff. And before we get really into it, let's cover my budget build rules for 2024. That's really what restrictions are really in place for these builds. Now, what's really changed since the last time I did one of these videos with this, I've actually done some typo corrections where needed. There's minor text changes to take into account that Tier 6 X2 grades were introduced. So I've got, given my cost, my builds don't usually include the usage of the Tier 6 X2 upgrades as a requirement, and most of this is to match the new visual look were introduced over Christmas. So let's quickly go over the rules. No additional C-store purchases are required by the cost to get the additional ship, as lockbox and lobby items require lockbox keys or other paid weight means. I'm going to be excluding them because they all require a C-store purchase. I'm also going to not count the lobby prize option from the year-long event campaign as a free option, because it's that depending on how you do it, you'll get one of it. So, day X builds, or the day and number build, is basically the approximate age for an active player with a level 65 character. Common drops usually can be crafted by another player or have the chance to drop in most content. Multiple Day X builds are often made in video as a line of progression. You can most of my builds will make it possible so that you can apply day 90 parts straight on top of a day 1 build if you have them already, so it's more of a progression, not a must follow this exactly. Items are not really common drops or part of repeatable mission rewards are considered expensive and usually are not replaced in later Day X builds. Most of the time I will not really cover item rank, mod, or rarity, and the won't need to match what I've shown when on the ships I actually show, unless I explicitly state you must have this particular mod. This is more of a guide for newer players, not the ideal means to get damage in tanking. Rule 9. No limited time event items are to be counted. Well, with the exclusion is to that items are available during the initial time to attain the event. Said event ship can be used. This is so this is purely because you probably half the time will earn enough means to buy the said item with the event item with the ship at the time. But some builds, mainly the Tier 5U or the Sea Star Fleet, additional equipment slots that will be noted because there will be and what items should be placed in for the Fleet or Tier 5U builds. I mean, the Fleet Tier 5U builds, because in some cases there's two. Usually I also recommend additional consoles for use with a Tier 5X, Tier 6X, or even a Tier 6X2 builds. I think there might be a Tier 5X2 build, but I'm not sure because they're expensive. Occasionally I'll break or bend a rule on the Day X limits, but usually with a good reason. Day 1 builds are really really for those who have just hit level 65 and want to fly the ship right now. Quite often mission rewards are considered. Most of the time I usually use the start of the Solanae Dash as this cut-off point. This is purely because it was the previous level 50 point, and I also hit level 65 during the new Romulus arc, which just before the Dash, so that is good enough points as any. Almost all items that I will be using will be bound as drop to crafted. Many items will be available on the exchange for relatively low prices. Most of the bridge officers' powers are limited to rank 1 or 2 and no specializations, usually for cost reasons, because you can find them from rank 1 2 items from rank powers from a certain series of vendors. If certain prohibited items are to be known and will be available for a character for a certain build, they can be used because they'll be available. Day 14 or day 20. This is really for event ships, but this will allow me to include the allowance of getting some things that you can. Basically, this is basically the same as day 1, other than the following change is that all mission rewards can now be considered, because the player usually can continue on the progress in the story during the event to the point where by the end of day 14 or day 20 they will have already gotten to the end of the storyline and might have already got some of the parts from what would be normally the day 30 builds. Going on to day 30 is basically any equipment that I've picked up from the previous day 1 or day 14 or day 20 builds are now considered part of it could be used. And day 30 is roughly where I expect a active player to progress a reputation to tier 5. It's approximate. You can, I believe it's 35 or 40 days, but I can get it down to 20, but that's because of some other things. Tier 5 of reputation will unlock most items within that reputation, with alt flavors being locked till tier 6. I've deliberately also marked down that competitive is purely delayed due to the fact that it's quite difficult to get into a match using at all, and or completed a random TFO that will avoid, which you may want to avoid if you don't know, if you're really weak and stuff. Many event ships usually drop during events where you don't get marks to obtain stuff during that event, so you can't throw by competitive can't get competitive marks just due to the daily event. But on day 30, as like day 20, all mission rewards will be available, even if there isn't a date, even if this wasn't a day 20. Again, day 60, anything from days for the previous build can also be used. This is also when most players can reach the top tier in reputations, which is tier 6. I will also be making tier 5 for competitive due to the fact that there is a later start. I've also decided to, because by 2 months down the line you will have now got enough resources that you can now start buying and selling stuff to get a rank 3 bridge officer skills, and there will be however there will still be a limited number of bridge officer skills that will be ignored. I've also decided to make it one bridge officer specialization bridge officer outside the mission reward bridge officers without some tweaks at this point, just purely because of usually how hard it is to find some of this stuff. Day 90. This is going to be pretty much almost the end of these builds. I deliberately use any equipment that I can obtain for day 60 can be used. I've tried to use because by this point you should have competitive all the way up, so any reputation gear can be used. I've also decided to include fleet gear. This is technically because fleet gears can take between a few hours to a few days to obtain, and they do have delivery and costs, so that's the reason why I put them towards the end. The advanced gear and which is the ISO mags and various ISO mag engineering consoles, and the rank 15 R&D gear such as the 360 beam array can also be used if you didn't have access due to some additional things. I've also decided to have no limits on specializations or anything like that. So, and usually I add a thing on towards the end, which is paid considerations. These are items or other ships or things from other ships that you can find in the sea store or previous events, and you usually get looking for their gear. These items will be often considered if they are considered useful for the build. I won't try to integrate them into the build, but the highlighted paid items will usually increase the effectiveness of some of the core ideas around the build, or just basically plain boost stuff which it can't just do without it. These items I would actually use on the ship if I was to regularly fly the ship. So let's cover some of my initial thoughts and really where do I want to go with the ship. Really. Now this is the Alliance Rex Pilot Escort. Very, 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 very pretty. Now the thing is, there's quite a few unique items about this ship. There's a unique wingman mechanic that effectively gives you two NPC ally ships to fly alongside you. You can control them within a limited form. So this is basically a variant of the wingman mechanic that's already used on many Jem'Hadar sea star ships, and being a Alliance ship that's heavily based on Jem'Hadar, on some Jem'Hadar ships, you can see why. The Universal Console will summon 4 NPC allies, one from each section, and will passively boost the flight speed and crit damage. Very, very nice. Very nice to consider. And the Starship trait applies a debuff to your targeted foes. Many shipbuilders have considered this could be a top ranked trait once they get started with the numbers. This is purely because debuffs are actually something important considering using at the moment, and this really helps your team, which includes your 2 NPC wingmen or your additional 4 NPC wingmen that you've just summoned in out as well. So, and the experimental weapon is poem based, and speed affects multiple items. The above items affects bonuses for the multiple items, so very, very much worth considering. Looking at. Now the layout. The ship is geared to be fast and agile, especially with the pilot maneuvers innate it ain't ready. It's already already installed, kind of. The ship runs a 5.42 aft and plus one experimental weapon, which has with dual cannon support and commander tactical station. It feels like I should run a cannon scatter volley build for this ship, and it's not going to be too bad running any other type of energy weapon build. With the Lieutenant Milker Worker slot, people think that mixed armament synergy is possible, and I've not actually used it myself, so I can't really tell you too much about it. With the Lieutenant Commander Universal Seat, this allows me to run either Photonic Officer 2 or an Octobat build, depending on how I feel like it, and both of them could work with some limitations of the. And let's looking at some other stuff. The weapons and the other gear. So the ship comes with anti-proton weapons out the box. However, the experimental weapon is pulveron based, which is a bit iffy. But since you can swap out both the energy weapon, standard energy weapons, and the experimental weapon as well, so there's no requirement to stay with one type. I sort of think this is going all energy weapon damage consoles in the tactical slots is going to be very good, especially with the Fleet Spire vulnerability locators being one of the better day 90 choices. And if we're going to go with Pulveron, which is a nice option, I'm thinking about the morphogenic armament set is a decent set to consider using. There are other Pulveron sets as well, but the morphogenic set's pretty much a one I would recommend getting because you can get it by day 20. Now I've considered possible seatings. This is a day 20 build, and I'm going to need to get my laser pointer out. And here we are. We got tactic. So we're going to go with the in somewhat of a weird order. We've got Tech Team 1 with then Beta 1 at Cannon Scatter Volley 2 and Omega 2 and 3. This is because both of them will fill this commander slot. This is purely because I kept and this Omega 2 and 3 is a more of a filler ability, and it's the only rank 2 British Officer power that can fit in that final slot. That means it's very easy to just not be forced into the Omega 2 slot there. Then you have the Tactical Miracle Worker Lieutenant Seat, which is I'm also running double tactical team. That's purely because I can't think of anything else to slot in there at the moment. And Top Spread 2 for the other slot. I think you might be seeing that is definitely something I'm going to change. The tactical seating is going to change a lot, but since most of these are actually just cheap abilities, you either get for free or can easily grab hold of. It's very easy to go on. The engineering pilot seating, I'm going to go for emergency power to shields, emergency power to weapons, and direct energy modulation. That's shields 1, weapons 2, and direct energy modulation 2. This is pretty much if I'm going to go for Photonic Officer option, this is pretty much, and I can't use immense power to weapons 3. This is pretty much what I have to go with. The science is really just one ensign slot, so that's transfer shield strength 3. This gives you some shields. Then I'm going to make my universalist science character, so that's science team, so that's 2 shields heals, although I could swap that to something else. Then there's hazard emitters. They're pretty much a very good heal, and remember you've also, and then this photonic officer. This is pretty much a build that can work, but there's plenty of improvement for all this later. As I said, Omega 2 and 3 are filler, but I'm putting 3 in here purely because there's quite a few bridge officers that a player should be able to get hold of pretty easily during the story. The story that can do Omega 3. That's Flores, Tarsi, Blaira, and Iso Rax can all get Omega 3 when they are given to you in the story. Flores and Tarsi are your first bridge officers in the Federation storylines, and Blair is part of the Klingon exclusive storyline, so she gets that as well. She gets in as well. Ashurax is a Dominion character, and he's pretty much drops with the rest of his squad. So yeah, you can get. So I think Roman's the only ones who definitely can't get hold of a Omega 3. That's easily. Most of the stuff here is going to change, but as I like to have hold of quite a few of the Omega 3 abilities, but I'm not particularly keen on running Octobat builds on a Day 20 build. But the big question is this ship worth getting? If you must ask, then yes, it is. The Starship trait looks good and is good at helping people who beat harder contact by it. Experimental pulling weapon is probably one of the first weapons that can be boosted by a standard weapon energy console. So it has been the two things. But some people are going to be asking, but wait, why have I missed it? Well, unlike my previous ship build videos, this event hasn't actually started. What you've been seeing, I'm not in flight. The ship isn't in the game yet, so basically this video is coming out a week before the actual event. Well, there will be a Zem buyout during the event, where if you happen to start later than you need, then you can complete it out in time. But I should recommend playing the stuff as much as you can, because it will take out as much you need, as much stuff as you can. Otherwise, I have no idea when it will come out, because all the other Alliance and ships has never made it to the Muds market or the Phoenix store yet. So yeah, that is really it. So I really do recommend you go and grab it. This has been Mike of Mike Sharp Writer. See you guys next time.